Now, if I said the words people, process and parent to you, you might have a bit of a quizzical look on your face, but I'm here to talk with Monika Calay about Morningstar's fund research analysis process. Monika, thank you for being with me. Let's start with the first of those. What does it mean to analyse people within a fund research team?
Thanks, Ollie. Absolutely. So maybe let's take a step back and talk about the medalist rating. So what the manager research team does is we assign medalist ratings to funds. So we qualitatively review those funds, and we have a methodology in place. And within that methodology, we have 3 pillars. And as you mentioned, they are people, process, and parent. So starting with people. People is the underlying team that manages that fund, and it's crucial when we're assessing active funds, which is why 45% of the medalist rating, the people pillar represents that portion. So for passive funds, it's lower, it's 10%, because it's usually a team-based approach, and passive funds track an index, so that's why we've assigned a lower percentage of the overall medalist rating. That is contributed by the people pillar. The things that we look at is succession planning, the composition of the team, key person risk, experience, tenure, how the squad works together, how they challenge, how conflicts are resolved. So it's a multifaceted approach, but we qualitatively assign a people rating.
And of course, during that, you've got one eye, I assume, on turnover of staff and whether there's any sort of longer term consistency there. Let's move on to parent then. What does it mean to be able to analyse a parent? We're looking at fund houses there, aren't we?
Absolutely. So we take a step back and we look at the overall firm. We don't look at just the passive part of the business or the active part of the business. We look at the entire lineup, and that represents 10% of the medalist rating for both active and passive funds. So it's a lower proportion that is assigned, but it's important because what we've examined over years and years of research is that the way that the firm is structured, how it operates, does have an impact on the overall performance of funds. So I'll give you an example. If you have a fund house that is launching a lot of trendy niche strategies that are really just there to acquire assets, that can be an alarm, that can be a red flag for us. So we really want to understand what the executive strategy is.
Sure, and I can't think what you're referring to, but it might just be to do with ETFs. Moving on to the final one, and that is process, isn't it? Now, the process is the complicated bit in terms of how things are actually constructed and how portfolios are built and why decisions are made when they're made and by whom.
Totally. Process is so crucial. So for active funds, it's we assign 45% of the overall rating to the process pillar, and then for passive funds, it's even higher. It's 80% because the index that a fund tracks is really what drives the strategy's performance. And so the things that we look at is the overall investment merit of that strategy. Does the fund do what it's supposed to do on the tin? If it's a value strategy, does it actually invest in value stocks? Does it outperform in value markets? So we're really assessing what underpins that strategy. So we look at the composition of the portfolio. We look at diversification. We look at how it compares to the category average. So at Morningstar, the way that we look at peer groups is via using the Morningstar category, and that has active and passive funds in it. And so we look at the overall composition. What does that peer group look like, and how does the fund that we're examining differ from its peers?
Sure. Monika, thank you so much. If you found any of that really interesting, look out for my next video with the manager research team with Monika's colleague Dan Hayden, who's going to be telling me even more about that process pillar and specifically something that they like to call edge. I'll leave you with that thought. Until next time, I've been Ollie Smith for Morningstar.